Recording in progress.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, honorable members and everyone present in the meeting. Chair, the time is 10 o'clock now, so you may start the meeting. Thank you.
Good morning, Sister Ando. Good morning, honorable members. Good morning to the Minister and the Secretariat. Exactly the meeting is supposed to be starting. Can we first check the quorum, Ms. Kaka?
Yes, Chair, the meeting does form a quorum.
Yes. Thank you very much. Please, honorable members, pardon me for hiding my face. For hiding my video. I'm still working around it because it's not in a good position, but I'm struggling to put this necessary icon so that I can be visible. But nonetheless, we'll proceed with our meeting. Our meeting now, our agenda as it is highlighted in front of us. You are all welcome to the meeting. Can we adopt the agenda, honorable members, as it is as outlined here? Honorable members, can we adopt the agenda?
Honorable Chairperson,
Yes, Honorable Adriansa.
I move to adopt the agenda.
Thank you very much, Honorable Adriansa. Any seconder?
Chairperson, Honorable Mukweli, I second.
Thank you very much, honorable members. Can we now take apologies?
Greetings again, Chair. I've got two apologies. The first apology is from the Minister. She won't be able to join us today due to the fact that she's attending a cabinet meeting. The second apology is from the Deputy Minister. She won't be able to join us today due to the fact that she underwent a knee surgery and currently undergoing a necessary recovery process. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Skaka. Can we take the apologies, honorable members, as they are? Wishing also the Deputy Minister a speedy recovery, so that she can be on the run again, hopefully.
Honorable Sibande, I move for the adoption of the apologies of Minister Apole Masinyane Futhi.
Thank you very much, Honorable Sibande. Any seconder?
Honorable Mukweli, I second.
Thank you very much, honorable members. Can now we proceed to the presentation on the basic education, honorable members, to be taken through the developments on the question of the accommodation, if I'm using the correct terminology, on the side of on early childhood development. Up until to a higher level. Thank you very much, honorable members. The team, the team leader from the side of the honorable minister, I hope it's a DG or I don't know how the delegation is formulated. Can I hand over now to the delegation to lead us in the presentations?
Good morning, Honorable Chair. My name is Matanzi Mamweli, the DG of Basic Education. The presentation and honorable members, good morning, honorable members and colleagues from DBE and from the Select Committee. The presentation is going to be led by Dr. Mtembu, the DDG for Basic Education. Chair, I need to apologize. Ndisemakaya, I'm attending from the deep rural areas of Lusikisiki. I'm serving the grade 12 learners there, but I'm attending the meeting. and the network might not always be reliable, but my desire is to stay in the meeting from the beginning up to the end, Chair. Dr. Mthembu will lead the presentation, and Mr. Ngobo will do the presentation. Over to you, Dr. Mthembu. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, honorable members.
Thank you very much, TG.
Thank you, DG. And let me take this opportunity to greet all the honorable members who are in the meeting, and also to greet your good self, Chairperson, and also to actually acknowledge the presence of officials from the Department of Basic Education. I must say that we really appreciate the opportunity to come and account in the selection committee, and we take this as a very serious opportunity for us going forward. And I will request Chief Director Weston and Mr. Ngobo to take us through the presentation. Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Ngobo and Chief Director Weston.
Thank you, DDG. Well, good morning, Chairperson, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, the Minister and Deputy Minister in absentia, and the DG and colleagues. I'm going to be taking you through the presentation. I'm trying to flight it so that you can see it. Can I check if the presentation is visible?
Not yet.
Okay, that I think is still coming. Is it visible, Chair?
Not yet. Sustando, will you assist in the process?
Let me fly it again. Chair.
Yes, it's visible now.
Oh, it's visible now. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Let me put it on slideshow then. Thank you. Honorable Chairperson, this is the presentation on the implementation of inclusive education. I'm going to be taking you through that presentation outline. It consists of those items as presented. Mostly, it's the programs that we are implementing to give effect to inclusive education for all the learners, especially the learners with disabilities. That's the purpose of the presentation, to present to the Select Committee on Education Sciences and Creative Industries on the implementation of...
Excuse me, Mr. Ngobo. Let's check if the slides are moving or not. You are in slide 3, but it looks like you're still having your cover slide on the screen. Not unless it's only my gadget, Chair.
Okay.
The same on my side, it's still slideshow. It's on slide.
Thank you
it's
for
not
your
on
intervention.
slideshow.
Yes, can you ask? Yes.
Yeah. I think it means that it is doing what, if I put it on slideshow, then it doesn't move. But if I take it out of slideshow, then it will move. Let me see again.
Mr. Ngobo, can I assist?
Yes, please assist. Let me take it off. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So it's on slide. Yeah. Okay. Can I continue?
Yes, meeting, we can continue.
Yes, that's the purpose of the presentation, to brief the Select Committee on the implementation of inclusive education, focusing specifically on learners with disabilities. You can go to the next slide.
Ms. Weston, the presentation is...
It's not moving.
Not moving. It's not on slideshow and it's not moving.
We are on slide 4. The mandate of basic education is to ensure that everyone has, it's gone now.
Will you assist Sistando?
All right, Chair.
Can we assist you, Mr. Ngobo?
Yes, please. At
Yes,
this stage,
please, Chair.
yeah.
Is the presentation visible, Chair? On the
Yes,
side?
yes, it's visible, Sistando.
But not on slideshow. It is fine. We can run it like this. Chair is perfect now. It's on slideshow.
Is Mr. Ngobo, because my issue is if Mr. Ngobo is so that he can align himself with it.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. We can see it now. From my side, it's clear. I don't know
Can
from
you
your side, Chair.
confirm, Mr. Ngobo? Mr. Ngobo, can you confirm? He's quiet. Mr. Ngobo, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Chair. It's on the presentation outline. So I've covered that. Those are the areas that I'm going to cover in the presentation. You can go to the next slide. Yeah, the next slide is the purpose to brief the select committee. And I was on these slides where the mandate of basic education is to provide access to education for everyone, and which means that access to education is an institutional imperative that must be actualized for all the people. But we are using inclusive education to give effect to these things. We acknowledge that there is significant progress that has been made, but that there are challenges that we need to deal with. You can go to the next slide. Go to the next slide, please. The next slide is around the policy framework, the legislative and the policy framework that we utilize to guide ourselves in the country in terms of the implementation of inclusive education. Those are some of the pieces of legislation and policies that we are using. You can go to the next slide. The next slide is an extract from the National Development Plan, which says that will provide inclusive education that enables everyone, and education that provides knowledge, skills, even for persons with disabilities, so that they can also be able to exercise their rights and be able to live independently. And this is done through the access to quality education to assist the country to achieve in part employment equity targets. You can go to the next slide. Go to the next slide. The next slide is showing you the progress that we've made in terms of the access to education for learners with disabilities. You will see that the enrollment moved in 2002 from 64,000 learners in special schools to almost double that, 127,677. But also what's important is that you will see that the numbers did not only increase in special schools, they also increased in public ordinary school. We're sitting at 67,104, and the 9,158 These are the learners in community-based special care centers. You will see, I'll talk to these in terms of how they are moved into schools in the later slides. You can go to the next slide. That slide is showing you a provincial breakdown in terms of the number of learners per province, which gives you 127,677. You can go to the next slide. That slide gives you the numbers of the breakdown, provincial breakdown of the numbers of learners in public ordinary schools. You will see that the learners are
Mr. Ngobo, we can't hear you.
Chair, we are losing Mr. Ngoba.
Mr. Tablane, you disappeared.
Dr. Mtembu, can you please assist to get Mr. Ngob? He must get a better network. If it's the connectivity in the department, he must get an alternative. He must get outside the system.
I'm doing that right now, Did.
Okay. Ms. Weston, can you also assist to locate Mr. Ngobo quickly?
I already spoke to DG. He
Yeah.
is reconnecting.
Yeah. Or else we must get ready to take over.
Yes, but I can continue.
Yeah.
If
Let's give him the last chance. If you can't do it, then you take over and we run
thanks,
through the
DG.
presentation. Thank you.
Yes, we'll do so.
Chairperson, do you hear me? I'm requesting you to encourage the department to lead us. Isikhathi sihamba. We ought to go to the house afternoon.
DG, can you take over, man? Because there is nothing that I can say now. Just technical glitches.
No,
No,
that's
we
fine.
requested.
That's fine, Chair.
Good morning, Chairperson, and good morning, honorable members of the House. I will take over the presentation from here on forward. This slide that we're currently on are indicating the number of learners with disabilities that's currently in our public ordinary schools, keeping in mind that the focus of the departments has shifted from moving learners into special schools, but rather to retain learners within our public ordinary schools and providing them with the necessary support going forward. The next slide, please. This is give us an indication of the number of learners with disabilities that is out of school, and you can see it covers the period from 2010 to 2022. And on the next slide, or couple of slides that will follow, we are indicating the response of the department to ensure that we address learners, the needs of learners, and bring those learners into basic education that's currently out of school. On the next slide, this is an indication of the number of in fact the allocation for the grant, and this is grant is our LSPID grant, which is in particularly focusing on our learners that are in special care centers, and to ensure that we support that learner based on the court order since 2010. Now, when we look at this, we can see there's a number of provinces where approximately 25% of the total allocation has been transferred to provinces, and spending in the majority of provinces, you can see this is the previous financial year, which ended at March 2025, and the expenditure in total for the grant is at 95% overall. A number of provinces have underspent, and the reasons for that under expenditure or low expenditure is largely related to the appointment of the therapists and support staff that enables this staff to do the work necessary. If we look at the next slide, we can see that Eastern Cape, Gauteng, and Northwest have consistently spent more than 90% of their budget. But we also see that Free State, KwaZulu-Natal, and Northern Cape has spent 92% of their budget. We have intervened as a department in the provinces where we see expenditure being low or not on par, in order to ensure that the areas of under expenditure are being addressed going forward. If we go to the next slide, the next slide indicates the expenditure as at 30 June this year. This is for the new financial year. And we can see that some of the provinces, in fact, majority of the provinces are spending, if you look at the straight line expenditure, but there are provinces like Northern Cape, like Northwest, and the Western Cape that is still lower. But in total, this expenditure is currently as a total percentage at 26%. Important to note that Gauteng's percentage expenditure at this stage is high at 75%, largely due to rollovers, but that has accrued from the previous financial year. On the next slide, we can see that the allocation for the 2025-26 financial year clearly indicates that adjustments have been allocated in Free State, in the Northern Cape, as well as in KZN, and this is largely due to either over or under expenditure in those particular provinces. As at June 2025, the majority of the provinces are now in line in terms of a straight line expenditure. But as I indicated previously, we have intervened in provinces to ensure that they maintain expenditure as per project plan. If we look on the next slide, which provides just a summary of what I've previously explained, so we can move to the next slide quite quickly. Some of the challenges, as I've mentioned, and this slide just indicate the mitigations or the steps that we've taken to mitigate against some of the challenges related to expenditure that we've experienced in the past. And that includes where we've escalated the challenges to the HODs. We implemented monthly finance monitoring meetings with all the grant managers in the provinces to ensure that we focus on expediting the filling of the vacant positions, because that is largely one of the key reasons why there is under expenditure. And of course, we fast track procurement process. We assist the provinces to fast track procurement processes and increase their spending capacity. We have in the past, and we continue to do that with provinces that do not spend. We do issue notices of intention to withhold the transfer, and if there's no improvement, we then withhold the transfer of the province in order to ensure to avoid underperformance of the provinces and to ensure increased performance as we move forward. If we look at the next slide, this slide focuses on learners with profound intellectual disabilities, which is part of the grant, and the work that we do as part of the grant, and largely is about, we developed a learning program to ensure that learners in special care centers are actually receiving or have access to education. And we've also trained at this stage more than just over 6,000 teachers and officials in the implementation and the management of the learning program. However, we are at this moment also, as part of this process, ensuring that we provide the learners that doesn't need, specialized care are actually placed in our schools to ensure they receive access to education based on their specific support needs. If we move to the next slide. In the next couple of slides, you can move on. We'll move to the policy on early identification, assessment and screening, in particular and starting in foundation phase. This is a strategic policy of the department, but we have since 2019 focused it on foundation phase. And the reason for that is that we want to, at the very earliest stage, identify the possible barrier that a learner may have to ensure that we provide adequate support and intervention from the foundation phase. There's also oversight visits that we conduct, and the upcoming slides will show some of the progress in terms of the learners that were screened, identified, assessed, and supported through this process over a number of years. The next slide, please. This is the 2024-25 year, and we can see that the number of learners that were screened is just over 1.3 million. And those that have been identified as having barriers to learning is 128,000. Now, the next slide will indicate also how we have, since identifying the learners, applied different categories of support. Our first prize is to retain the learners at the school where they are and provide the necessary support while the learners are at their current schools, as opposed to referring them further or to another school, etc. And this slide indicates that the majority of the cases are resolved at school level at this moment. There is, however, a number of cases that are referred to the district for further support, and those cases from the district level are then also resolved by retaining the large majority, by retaining our learners in the school and providing the necessary support for the learners whilst in the schools. On the next slide. This is the key trends that one can notify differentiated per province in terms of the number of learners that have been identified, the support that they have received in schools, as well as those that have been referred. We can clearly see the shift where we want it to be, that the majority of the learners are retained within their schools and receiving support in their schools, as opposed to being referred to other schools. We do see, for example, large numbers in Gauteng, Limpopo, and Mpumalanga, and at that stage, we can see that the percentage of learners that have been supported in some provinces is quite high. You could see Eastern Cape and KZN above 80, Northwest with 88%, and the Western Cape, even with, it seems that it's more than 100%, but the reality is that this is in additional learners that have been supported in the Western Cape, as well as in the Free State. If we move to the next slide, that refers to the learners in the ECD centers. As the Department of Basic Education has taken over this functionality of ECD, there has been a deliberate move and intention on the department on the side of the department to ensure that we go even lower in terms of early identification of developmental delays, so that we can support learners throughout. So we have this process indicates that we do tracking of literacy and numeracy progress, and also communication and numeracy milestones. We do provide a referral guide. We provide parents with the necessary skills to be able to observe and record, so that learners are identified early when they miss particular developmental milestones. On the next slide, we can see that this is a specific tool, and the field testing of the tool has just been concluded, and this is work that we're doing in collaboration with the Department of Health also, where the target group is really your learners from 14 weeks up to 5 weeks. And as I said, the intention is early identification, especially in terms of developmental delays, because they do have an impact later on the learner's ability to learn, and then it's to provide the necessary support. We have field tested the tool through what's in support with Takalani Sesame, and the feedback that we've received from the parents and the findings is helping us to finalize the tool and to include it. On the next slide, you will see, to include it as part of the Road to Health booklet by the Department of Health, to ensure that we train as part of that training that occurs on the Road to Health and parental involvement, that this particular screening tool will become part of that process, so that all parents that are part of that process actually are able to either identify, and we provide the necessary support and referral channels also as part of our work that we do with the Department of Health. If we go on the next slide, which focuses on the placement of our out-of-school learners. We do know that there's a significant number of learners with disabilities that are still excluded from our formal education system, and most of them at this stage are accommodated in your community-based care centers. As I mentioned earlier, these are care centers where formal education is not provided, and therefore the department then, through the DG, created a multidisciplinary task team that facilitate the placement of our out-of-school learners with disabilities from the care centers into our schools, to ensure that learners that are in the care centers are really appropriately placed. On the next slide, you would see the work that has been done in terms of the identification of the learners that is actually supposed to be placed in our schools, and the progress that we made. This slide merely highlights what is the mandate of the task team and what they have to do. But if we move to the next slide, it will clearly outline for us the progress in terms of placing our learners. You can see per province the number of learners that were identified with the different disabilities, which is your profoundly intellectually disabled, your severely intellectually disabled, your mild to moderate, etc. And from this screening that was done, we then identify the learners to be placed in the schools. At the moment, you can see per province, this national task team, as I said, is established also within provinces. And as a collective, as a sector, we work towards placement at the learners. This is a very sensitive and therefore very calculated and may seem a bit slow, but the idea is really that we need to screen learners, identify the challenges, and then identify schools where these learners can be placed, so that really only your profoundly intellectually disabled learners are in the special care centers. I must, however, add that we do have a number of profoundly intellectually disabled learners that are also placed in our schools as part of this entire process. If we go to the next slide. And this is just highlighting the category of disabilities that were identified based on the assessment and the number of learners that are still unassessed at this stage. But this is an ongoing process to ensure that all the learners are eventually placed out of the special care centers into nearby schools. We can move to the next slide. This highlights the quarterly trends, and we can see that if you look at the quarterly trends, you'll see Q4, there's quite a high placement of learners in comparison to other quarters. The key challenge here is for us to move this spike, if one wants to call it, to Q3. The reason is Q3 is the end of the academic year, and Q4 is actually the beginning of the academic year. And we want our learners at the end of the academic year to know which school they will be attending in the upcoming financial year. And therefore, we are moving to shift this and to have provinces place learners during Q1, 2, and 3, as opposed to the spike that we see. So our interest is in moving the spike, the curve to Q3, so that our learners are placed ready to start the new beginning of a year in time for the start of the academic year. If we move to the next slide, please. This is just a graphic representation of what I presented on the previous. We can move on in the interest of time. And really just highlight the emerging trends. We can see that since we started, we have at this moment placed 403 of the learners. And we can see that there is still a significant, while it's an increase in, the previously placed learners for the 2022-23 year, we can see that there's still a number of learners that we have to place. And this process, as I said, is ongoing at the moment. We can move to the next slide. This upcoming slides is, and I'm going to run through them quickly. It's merely just to outline the training that is being provided to our teachers in specialized areas. And the specialized areas is really a range of areas. And we can see, if we look at from the bottom to the top, starting in 2019, ending in 2024, because that's the figures that we have at the moment, that gradually there's an increase in the number of teachers that are being trained in different areas of specialization as it pertains to inclusive education. And at this moment, our current total at the moment nationally is that we have 259,000 of our just over that of our teachers trained in various areas. You will see the slump around 2020, and that is primarily because COVID, and then training in most cases came to a halt or was actually reduced because of COVID. But provinces since then has picked up in the provision of specialized training to our teachers. If we move on to the next slide, please. This is teacher training in Braille, South African Sign Language, autism, as well as other areas. And other areas, like I said, is broad specialization areas as it pertains to inclusive education. And this is where we are in the 2024-25 financial year at the moment. If we move on. This slide highlights some of our universities. At the moment, we have 4 universities that are providing very focused courses. University of Pretoria, Wits, University of Johannesburg, University of the Western Cape, and these are the areas that they are providing different courses for teachers, accredited courses, and we are, as a continue to engage universities to ensure that we really expand the offering or the number of universities that offer specialized courses for teachers that they can engage in. On the next slide. This slide is as part of our Funza Lushaka bursary program. We do award bursaries for learners for students rather, that opt to study South African Sign Language. And you can see this is the breakdown per province. And at the moment, the majority of the learners that we are funding, or the students rather that we are funding, is from KwaZulu-Natal. On the next slide. Excuse me. This is the breakdown of the universities. It's actually only 2 universities that are offering it, and the majority of them are at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, and then there's a significant number at the University of the Witwatersrand. On the next slide, please. This refers to LTSM for the learners in special schools, and we can see that provinces use different models of procuring LTSM. Some are centrally procured, some are transfers the schools, and this is our special schools also to procure the necessary LTSM for the learners in the school. On the next slide, we will see this is the number of schools that procured LTSM for 2025. And that, as the slide indicates, it has been procured and delivered, and we can see there ranging from Braille and large print textbooks, as well as your Braille machines, your technical services and training of educators, that all forms part of this particular allocation that schools receive in terms of LTSM. If we go to the next slide. This is a continuation for the outstanding provinces, which is Northern Cape, Northwest and Western Cape, and where they are in terms of their procurement or what has been procured already for the learners. Understanding that LTSM also works on a top-up. So as schools require year on year additional LTSM based on the needs of the school and based on the age of the equipment, etc. These are then procured through LTSM for all our special schools. If we go to the next slide. Just to note that for 2026, the process has already begun. LTSM is procured at least up to 18 months in advance. So the 2026 process at this stage, we can report 100% of requisition already from all the special schools. And this is, for example, also referring to support for South African Sign Language, and then also our Braille and large print. Important to note that the department has procured master copies of all the CAPS textbooks for Braille and large print, and therefore these copies are then provided to provinces, and provinces then print for schools, or schools print for themselves. And all these resources are uploaded onto our website to ensure that schools and provinces can access it easily. And this ensures that schools don't individually have to procure master copies from pioneer printers, but the department has done that, and that is at a central basis, and then providing to all our schools to access in the various languages as well. If we can move on. In terms of ICT, you can move on and connectivity for our special schools. We can see as part of the ICASA obligations, we already have 406 out of 461. That's 88% of our special schools have received the ICT equipment, connectivity, as well as assistive devices. The remaining schools, important to note that Cell C is lagging behind, but they have submitted their plan to ICASA to complete the remaining schools in the 2026-2027 financial year. Important to note that together with Cell C, Liquid Intelligent Technologies is also finalizing the rollout of resources to the remaining 10 special schools. So by 2025, 2026, we should have all our special schools provided with the necessary resources as well as connectivity. Excuse me. If we move to the next slide. In terms of infrastructure, this is per province, so I'll just spend a little bit of time on the first province and then we'll move over the others quite quickly. Starting off with Free State, if we can go to the next slide. In terms of the infrastructure provision for our special schools, this slide and all of the slides follow the same format where they indicate the completed special schools projects, in the names of the schools and what was the scope, what was the work that was done at the particular school. And this is, for example, the schools that were beneficiaries in the Free State. If you move to the next couple of slides and we can just browse through them, we don't have to stand still at any one of them, really indicating what are the projects and what is the scope of the projects, what has been done, and where the completion is at this status. We can move to the next slide, please. This is just some pictures of a school of autism in Bloemfontein, and this is an already operational schools at the moment. You can move on, please. In Gauteng, the same format. This is the completed special schools projects at these particular schools, the scope. And on the next slide, once again, we outlined in the planned projects or the capital projects that will unfold over the next MTF. If we move on, here's a picture of Nokutula Elson School that has been refurbished. If we move on, KwaZulu-Natal, you can skip through the slides because this is now for each of the provinces. Just flighting the infrastructure investment that has been made in all our special schools. And as I said, there are plans going forward to address, on an ongoing basis, address the school. This is Limpopo. We can move on, please. Mpumalanga, yes, we can move on through all the schools. This is just a summary of all the work in terms of infrastructure that's being done in the schools and have been completed, for example, but also on the slides indicating where it's not completed, what has been planned, and where we are in terms of progress at the moment. We can move to the next slide, please. This is the planned projects from Mpumalanga. This is the Northwest. We can move on. So as I've mentioned before, this is some of the maintenance work that is planned. Eastern Cape, you can move on, please. Yes, this is just the summary of all the work that has been done, planned projects, etc. You can move. We can skip through the Western Cape as well. Learner transport provisioning. This is a scholar transport or a summary of the scholar transport program for our special schools. We can see it's a breakdown per province. This is the number of learners that have been identified to be in need. And the second column, this is for 2020, 2021, 2022, the number of learners that were served and the number of schools that were served. And this is gives you a progressive increase from 2021 up to 2025. And if one looks across, one can clearly see how the need is growing and how the department is then responding appropriately. We have to indicate, and you will notice that in the majority of cases, we can provide or the scholar transport needs are adequately provided for. However, we are, because this is an ongoing need and it's ongoing being monitored. So on an ongoing basis, the department then provide needs. And we must indicate that there's a couple of provinces where we are experiencing challenges, and we are working hard to resolve those challenges to ensure that we can provide scholar transport to all the learners that requires and the number of schools that actually needs this. We can see the increase in the number of schools across from 2021 up to which was started at 11, for example, for the Eastern Cape, but ended at 22 in 2025. And this is where provinces are, for example, where new schools have been built in some of the new special schools in some of the provinces. We can continue as we go towards conclusion. These are co-curricular activities for our learners with special needs, in particular focusing on school sports and the Sasuke choral competition. If we move on to the next slide, which is, this is just some pictures of the school sports for learners with special needs, as well as the Sasuke. And we can see we have just concluded the Sasuke a few weeks ago. That for in terms of sports, for example, here's a list of all the sporting codes that our learners are participating in, learners from special schools. These are the different categories, as well as the number of participants that have, that are part of this program. Important to indicate that these programs start from school level and work their way through up to a national championship level. The same can be said on the next slide when we look at our Sasuke choral. You can move to the next slide. Where there was two categories of our learners with severe intellectual disability and learners with mild to moderate intellectual disability. There were two categories for learners to participate in, and we can see that the number of learners that participated, and the category, because previously it was one category for learners with special schools, but because of the abilities of the learners and the different needs, this has been separated this year into two categories to ensure that more learners can participate actually as part of this program. If we move to the next slide, which is just really highlighting some of our engagements with the sectoral, with inclusive education. It should be highlighted that the department is not working in isolation, and we have established multi-sectoral teams that are meeting regularly so that we address challenges related or support related to inclusive education, to realize that it really takes a sectoral approach. And we have, this slide indicates the dates of meetings that have started taking place. This is the upcoming meetings, and you can see they run up to 2026. We're just sharing this is the plan for this year. The meeting of June has already taken place. And on the next slide, one would see that this particular engagement or collaboration, really some of the achievements up to date, they have the agreed terms of reference, which outlines the roles and responsibilities of each of the stakeholders. They've expanded the initial team that brought together as they identified the need for more departments and functions to come in to ensure that we collaborate and we provide a structured support to the sector in order to improve the provision of inclusive education in the country and actually to realize the White Paper 6. If we move to the next slide, part of what the department is currently doing is to review White Paper 6. And this was this task team that is a ministerial task team that was established in 2023. And it composed of a variety of experts, starting from the departments, but also including sister departments, non-governmental organizations, our labor partners, as well as organizations representing learners or persons with disability. At the moment, on the next slide, outlines for us the progress that has been made and the work that has been done. The team, as I said, they started work already, and the first phase, in fact, or the first appointment phase came to an end. Minister then reappointed them so that they extended their period so that they can conclude the work, which is largely about finalizing the report, because they had an interim report, and also finalizing the recommendations for the department to improve the provision of inclusive education to learners within the basic education need. If we look at the next slide, this is just outlining when what other processes needs to follow. Important to note, there is a planned conference, a multi-sectoral conference, to really consider the recommendations of the ministerial task team and to ensure that they are comprehensive, they're practicable, they're implementable, and they will take the system forward in providing access to quality of education to our learners with special education needs. A final report has to be presented to the minister in February 2026, emanating from the work that is currently underway by the ministerial task team. In conclusion, the next slide, please. We can move forward. This is ongoing challenges. As much as we presented progress, there is still challenges that remain within the system and that we have to address, such as the misalignment with regards to how inclusive education is currently being implemented and the strategic direction where the department wants to take the system. Children of school-going age who are out of school, especially those in our community-based care centers. How do we then ensure that we adequately implement and support learners from ECD, as from 14 weeks around early identification and intervention, and ensuring that, you know, with the available funding that we have, how do we balance the needs of the sector with the available funding, and to ensure that we get the best value for money that will ensure that we protect access to basic education for our learners in not just in special schools, but our learners with special education needs, be they in public schools or in our special schools. The next slide. And we therefore recommend that the committee notes and discuss the progress and on that the department has been making for the focus on learners with disabilities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cheryl. Chairperson, this is our presentation, and we are presenting this, noting that there's still much more room for improvement in this area of learners with special needs. We also want to note that basic education is not an end in itself. It is a means towards an end, and therefore our collaboration with the higher education department will eventually look at what happens to the special schools or special needs learners as they approach the tertiary or higher education schools. We therefore saying that this is what is being done and being covered, but we admit and we agree that there's still room for improvement. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mtembu. Over to you. Sir. Thank you, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members. Chair, done.
Yes, leadership. Sorry, my
Yeah.
yes. Thank you very much, DG and the team, in terms of the representation that you've made. It have assisted us. What I will do, I will allow members. I won't take the first bite. I will allow members to interact with the presentation. Honorable members, it's your opportunity to do so. Honorable Sibande, Honorable Mukwele.
Chairperson,
Yes, can I also submit the apology from Honorable Finis? She's traveling. By the time we started with the meeting, she was boarding the flight. So, Ms. Kaka, can you also include that apology? She just sent me an SMS. Honorable Sibande, you are recognized.
Chairperson, first of all, I wanted to maybe to thank the department that finally they were able to talk. I really don't know what happened today. They were scared of talking to us. I don't know what but the presentation was marvelous. It's okay. But nevertheless, just iterate on one or two issues. I wanted to comment, in fact. Chairperson, this thing procurements, processes, nale vacancy filling rate. You see, I wanted to recommend that, or to make a small plea that please. These two things, some of the time, they can't just happen on air. They do happen when there are no proper structures who's supposed to do proper monitoring and also to I mean, yeah, correctly to do proper process to make sure that the implementation of some of the things are being done. I wanted to appeal ukuthi the department must make sure that this thing ayenzeki, and ngoba indication ishowa ukuthi since they've started to make follow-ups themselves as the department to the provinces, and then they are able to get rid of this thing. I'm trying to say, department lungisani indlini ibe ready ngaso sonke isikhathi ngoba kutshengisakele kupruvakele when you started to do your presentation that bekade kunelali kancane la kuma-province bekasalele emuva ngelower about the expenditure which was lower, whatever, the project plan. And after you stood up, I mean, that's where some of the things happened. I'm trying to say they must continue doing like that to minimize some of these problems, because lastly, I'm not feeling okay when most of the time imali eningi ibisele moving akasebenzanga. Thank you, Chairperson.
Mr. Honorable Sibande, Honorable Mkwele.
No, thanks very much, Chairperson, and greeting to honorable members in the platform and also the official. Let me just join my colleagues to welcome the presentation from the department. and also to say we really appreciate the strides. But Chair, I just want to comment on the presentation by the department where they were giving us the stats of the of their institutions where there are people with disability, which they also, when they conclude, they indicated that they want to make the stride to make sure that people with disability, because remember, Chair, disability is not inability. So how are they going to make sure that they finalize or they move very high in terms of the percentage of the number of schools that can accommodate people with disability and people who are, who does not have the thing of this. Because remember, Chair, in my other life, I happened to live in the area whereby there was a school where that the only people who are disabled, they were assigned to that particular school. Remember, when they are at the high school level, whereby majority of our high school or the majority of our school, whether in a rural or urban area, they can't accommodate them, because remember, these people, they must feel being part of the society, because when you are disabled, doesn't mean that you are differing with me, because in terms of the health language, all of us, we've got our different type of disability. But I want to check, because in particular in the province where I'm coming from, majority of schools, they are still lacking this facility which they are user friendly to the people who've got a specific type of disability. Because remember, even if maybe you the person who's got disability must come to go to school in a particular area, at the end of the day, once he completed either at the university or everywhere, he will be still gonna be accommodated in that society. That is why at some point it is difficult for them to feel that they are also there is no difference between us and them, those that we think that we don't have that disability. So I just want to check that. In terms of percentage, I know they cannot get to 100%, but what is it that they do so that the people with those that are with disability and those that they don't have, they from the basic education up until they feel that they can be in the same area. So that's the only bite that I want to make, Chair. But other than that, I really want to appreciate the presentation from the department. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mukwele. Honorable DJ, I always have a problem when I say something wrong. I cannot keep quiet. We've made oversight in Gauteng province as a select committee where we identified some good work done by the department. But at the same time, we came across some very disturbing, project, specifically the one that have been highlighted, Noktula, the Noktula School. The Noktula School is a ticking time bomb. A disaster or a crisis in motion, but it's coming very slowly. By the time the school is crumbling to something I don't know, I might not be it might not be around the Serbian administration, but there is a serious problem that is taking place, that have taken place there. And seemingly it does not seem to be appreciated as such. I rejected the report of the department, specifically on the question of Noktula, because it was not a true reflection, as it is the case even now in the presentation. the school was meant to be a world-class school in that particular province, and something that was that would be a pride in the department. But in terms of what is presented here, it is not exactly that is taking place. I don't think that the school, even now, even if you can say, let's go there, can be, you know, something that people can be accommodated there due to, you know, structural defects that have been identified. The question of certificates, we are not given, you know, those reasons, and I'm not going to be quiet, me alone. I am not going to be quiet. I'm not going to accept anything less of exactly what is going to be happening with that school and what is happening with everything that we've identified. Because when we're doing these oversights, we're not doing oversights just for ticking, just to tick a box at teaching. I'm glad that we're part of that meeting. I rejected that report. I can imagine in areas where we have not visited that were given, reports here. How are we going to trust what is presented to us is exactly what is happening on the ground? Now I'm having the problem. And on the question of that school specifically, it gives me to change the whole picture of what is presented to me. Because as long as it is not reflecting as such. So I have a problem now, you know, with that teaching. I'm happy with it's not because of this of this meeting only, but with the province itself, I rejected it. So even in this instance, there must be a combined report. There must be a combined report that is going to be talking on what is going to be happening with Noctula. And an effort which is beginning to correct. Because if we are going to accept it and treat it as something, tomorrow we will be called to go there. I mean, the media will be there, everyone, and will be justifying. A lot of money have been wasted there. So with regard to that one, I'm not going to find the progress in terms of the report as it is presented. But it changes everything now once we are not given exactly what is actually happening on the ground, because I consolidate it as such. So that's what I wanted to raise. I will hear what will be the responses on the matter. Thank you, honorable members, also for the input that you put. Thank you. Can we get responses, TG?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Honorable Sibande. Thank you, Honorable Mokwele. Chair, I hear you and I respect your reflection and how you feel. And I agree with you. You should not accept anything unless you are satisfied with what has been presented. I was in that meeting with Gauteng. I know that you indicated your dissatisfaction. We're going to work with Gauteng on Nokutula to deal with matters that make you unhappy. I promise that I commit. I will, together with the team, I'll make an effort to go and visit that school. I know exactly where it is. We have been using it as a marking center. So we'll go there and do our best to make sure that you are happy, Chair. That's the commitment that I'm making. I'm going to do that. As soon as I finish with this program of the matriculants, I will go to Gauteng and visit Nokutula, work with the department to deal with the issues that we have identified. Our job is to make sure that you are satisfied with what we have picked up as anomalies or defects or irregularities It's my responsibility to make sure that they are attended to. I commit that we are going to do that. Honorable Sibande, it's not that we got cold feet. There are 4 of us. We had to make sure first that Mr. Ngobo is unable to present, and thanks to the Chief Director, she managed to present. If the Chief Director couldn't, Dr. Mtembu had to present. If he couldn't, I had to present. You were going to get a presentation. I'm sorry about the glitches, and I think we'll prepare better next time that we don't delay your meetings because of technical glitches. We're definitely ready to present. But just to indicate on, and I'm sure Dr. Mtembu and Mr. Ngoba and the Chief Director, Ms. Weston, will come in. I agree with you, Honorable Sibande. The team can tell you, I said to them, look, the issue of supply chain, it's unacceptable because we are talking about weaknesses within ourselves. Although it's provinces, but provinces are by extension, we are part of provinces. So we need to do better. I'm out, as you can hear, to try and deal with some of these things. And I promise you that we'll deal with them. The problem with LSPID, the grant for learners with profound and intellectual disabilities, is difficult to keep people permanent in their posts because the allocation for appointment is linked to a grant. And good people are recruited keep them on contract. And we've been trying to talk to Treasury to try and consider making this allocation available. But for as long as it's part of the grant, it will only be on fixed term contract and not permanent. So that's the challenge there, but I accept your reflection. And Honorable Mukwele, Mr. Ngoban, Doctor, and Ms. Weston will try and explain the issue. I've established a task team to increase the placement of learners. Learners with minor disabilities must go to public ordinary schools because many of our public ordinary schools, we've made them accessible for wheelchairs and other minor disabilities. Only learners with severe disabilities must be referred to institutions that cater for learners with disabilities. The rest, they must go to public ordinary schools. And I think we'll keep on reporting on that to indicate the progress that we are making. In other countries, the majorities of learners with disabilities are in public ordinary schools. And White Paper 6 had intended us to do so. And that's the direction that we are going. We've made some progress, but not good enough. And I think more can be done. And I'm going to request Dr. Mtembu that Mr. Ngobo could come in, and perhaps he could also come in. Those are my comments, Chair, but thank you very much for acknowledging the progress. But we're making this progress because you're holding us accountable. It's because of the oversight that you place over us. The progress that we've made is because of the leadership you provide and the guidance that you give to us. And the fact that you are uncompromising, Chair, when you want things to be done, you just want them to be done and you don't accept anything less. That's because of that. Otherwise, thank you very much. Dr. Mtembu, Ms. Weston, and Mr. Ngobo, you can come in to complement or supplement my response. Otherwise, thank you very much, Chair, for your leadership and your guidance.
Thanks, DG, Mr. Ngobo and Cheryl. If you can come in, and then I will come last.
Thank you, DDG. Yeah, I think Mr. Mafogo will respond to the issue around Noktula. There is some development that's going on there. With your permission, DDG. I think I welcome the shift that the select committee, the honorable members are making in terms of moving to inclusive education, from special education to inclusive education. And I welcome the question that they are asking us about when we are going to make sure that there is access for learners with disabilities in public ordinary schools. But I want to indicate that the presentation already indicates that 67,104 of the learners are already in 22,880 schools. And this is in line with what the DG is pointing out. And in terms of the national task team, I must add that we have already established provincial task teams to assist with that kind of work, but we are envisaging them evolving to a mechanism to ensure that we expand access to inclusive education for learners with disabilities in public ordinary schools. So it's not a task team that will just die at the end of the placement, but I think you can already see, because what we are starting with our monitoring of the provincial task teams. We trained them in May this year to in terms of them setting up, because the national task team was already in place. So from the 4th up to the end of the financial year is monitoring and supporting the provincial task teams. And one of the things that they are going to be presenting to us about is where they have placed the learners. Remember, the Honorable Chair, we ratified the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities in 2007. And simply put, it was saying that learners must go from their homes and go to a community school, learn alongside their peers, and go back to school. This is what the country ratified. But also, what's going to add to the efforts to open inclusive education for learners with disabilities in public ordinary schools. The minister established a ministerial task team which is reviewing the white paper, Education White Paper 6. I can point out that the issue of inclusive education in public ordinary schools for learners with disabilities is amongst the key issues that is likely to come out. But what we are doing is that with all the provincial task teams, what we have said is that we are not placing learners in special schools. We are placing learners in appropriate schools. But part of this is supporting the parents, because there is a need to engage properly with the parents to ensure that the parents are familiar with what needs to be done, because this is a huge mind shift in the country. So part of what is going to be happening in the meeting of the National Task Team on the 3rd and the 4th is exactly engaging with parents. In other words, we're going to be also supporting the provincial task teams in how to engage with parents, because some of the issues that we deal with are issues that can be dealt with easily at that level. So I want to say that the direction that the honorable members are pointing to us is the direction that we are taking as a sector in terms of mainstreaming inclusive education. So, Chair, I think the issue around the oversight, our oversight mechanisms, I think I concur with the honorable members that we've strengthened them, and we continue to strengthen them. And if you look at our oversight mechanism, like I've talked about, the monitoring of the provincial task team, but we also have annual oversight visits to provinces. We usually cover 3 to 4 provinces per year. But I think over and above that, we have established a structured forum for engaging with organizations that represent persons with disabilities. It is not only to account to them, that's part of the story, but it is also to collaborate with them, because they've got resources, they've got experience of working with parents, of working with learners with disabilities. So in some cases, we're collaborating to make sure that we take the work of the sector forward. The Honorable Chairperson, I think that let me stop there because those are the issues that I wanted to add to what the DG had already pointed out. Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Chair, and good morning. Good morning, honorable members, and good morning to DG and colleague Chair. I just want to explain right from the onset that the slides on infrastructure, we are not only presenting completed or perfect projects, but what we were doing is to give an overall picture of the work on infrastructure happening in the inclusive education space. So our projecting of Nokuthula in Gauteng is not an attempt to say or to hide anything or to say that that project is complete. As a matter of fact, even before the portfolio committee visited Nokuthula, we were already aware of the challenges relating that particular project. I'll just indicate briefly the background. Remember, construction in Nokuthula commenced in 2015 and the facilities were handed over to the end user in October 2017. But the main contractor, who was contracted by the Department of Infrastructure Development, DID, was terminated prior to the end of the contractual defects liability period due to the contractor being on business rescue. So the contractor was unable to thoroughly attend to some of those defects in the infrastructure. So as a DBE, as part of our monitoring exercise, we monitor every project that the provinces are implementing. So this project is implemented by DID on behalf of GDE. But as a national department, it's one of those projects that we have been monitoring. So what happened is that upon being aware of those defects and even raising them ourselves, the Gauteng Department of Education dispatched an independent professional service provider who investigated the defects. And I'll just outline some of the findings which confirm what also the portfolio committee found during your visit, that for instance, there was what we call rising damp within most of the buildings, especially the dormitory buildings. The existing apron slabs, for instance, some of them were found to be too shallow and too narrow to protect the building for water ingress. The courtyard also was found to have been constructed flat, and which resulted in the stormwater ponding during storms. And so I will go through a lot because it's quite a detailed report. Now, what happened is that we outlined a process in terms of what is it that needs to be done. But in the interest of time, I will just indicate that DID, which is the implementing agent, requested additional funding to make good of those things. The funding was made available and a PSP team was appointed, and it is now has finalized the planning. We received the report, I think, about a month ago. And what is left now is to appoint a contractor to attend to all those defective issues that were identified at Nokuthula. So it's not that nothing has been done, and there is an attempt to link the portfolio committee as if nothing is happening. So we have a full report, and we are monitoring what is happening in Nokuthula on a regular basis as part of our monitoring the DBE and provinces. Thank you, Chair. I hope this would satisfy the committee. This is work in progress. If there is a need, we can keep the committee updated. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mafuku. Chief Director Western, let me not assume that you are covered.
No, DDG, I'm covered. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Chair. Let me then, on behalf of the branch and on behalf of the sector, then mention that we have taken the advice from the oversight structures as well as from the DG to say that we must embrace the mantra which says inclusivity across the board. That's why in our presentation, there are policy matters, there are admission matters, there are finances, there's learner transport, there's infrastructure, there's ICT, there's sports and recreation, which is extracurricular, and there's curriculum. The main thing here, we are trying to say that we have taken the advice from the DG to have inclusivity across the board. We might not have covered other areas of the sector, but each and every branch, each and every province, each and every district, circuit and school must embrace this issue of inclusivity, because we agree totally with the honorable members that these learners must join the society like a normal kind of a situation. We cannot isolate them from the rest. And then for us, as I conclude, Chair, the opportunity to account, as DG has said, is an opportunity to grow the young democracy that we are serving and to address the will of the people of South Africa, including the learners and those with disabilities. Therefore, for us to account is not a problem, it's an opportunity. I would like to request and also to implore the honorable members to keep on giving us this opportunity to stand in front of them and tell them what we're doing. The advice that we're getting, and also the kind of comments that we're getting, that's what is propelling us forward for the benefit of our people. Thank you very much, Chair. Let me take it back to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tembu, and also the DG and then the team that have prepared the presentation for us. I think a select committee will settle specifically on the question of Noctula to what the DG have advised as a way forward, because anything that is lesser than that raises more issues, than not. So we won't dwell further, except to say that we will be following closer the process that have been highlighted by the DG, because everything else that have been raised. Remember, the process of ensuring that our kids with disabilities become part of a larger society in terms of participating on or in terms of their participation, it does not, negate the question of those facilities that are availed in order to prepare them, to be part of that society. So wherever we see a discrepancy, whether there's a question of policy or question of facility that's supposed to be accommodative to them, as a select committee, will ensure that we do not accept anything lesser than that. So the agitation and the engagements are informed by that. So ours is not to be difficult, but our political oversight is informed by that. So we appreciate the presentation, and then we will be looking very, very close in terms of the progress as highlighted in the presentation. We are applauding DG the progress. We will consistently do that. So we are not by any means of trying to be problematic to the department. So by those few words, let us indeed allow you, DG and your team, to go and do some other responsibility of making sure that our education system becomes an education system that is building the future of this country. These are the presidents and the doctors of this country that are helping us. It's a building block indeed in ensuring that South Africa becomes better even in future. So by those few words, you are released, Honorable, DG and your team. We will continue with our agenda items. Thank you very much. Can you highlight the minutes, Ms. Kaka?
Thank you, Chair and honorable members.
DG, you are released if you are still around.
Ingwantshi babambile. Akunokwenzakalani namhlanje.
Sister Ando, can you flight the minutes? Other members, the minutes are in opposition. Honorable Sibande.
Chairperson, ukhona obekakhuluma ngathi Honorable Mokoena ngizwe ngathi uya move to adopt the minutes. Mina, without hesitating, I do support the adoption of the minutes. Thank you, Chairperson.
Second, Chair.
Buya, Chairperson. So adoptile ama minutes.
You are released, other members. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. What is...
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you, Chairperson. Bye-bye.
Recording stopped.